My mate Shay, right, I tell you, was a lunatic of a bloke, proper sound fella though, mind you, but one of those lads who couldn't help himself when he got a notion. He worked as a wine vendor of all things. He had this job, he'd go around the shops, he'd be setting up these little tasting stalls, talking all fancy about grapes and God knows what else. You'd think he was some kind of expert. But Shay, no, he didn't even like wine that much. He said it was posh Ribena, which honestly, it wasn't far off. The thing about Shay, he had this bloody weakness. It wasn't for the women, it wasn't for the drink. He was as loyal as a Labrador to his missus. But it was the takeaways. The man couldn't pass a drive-thru without his stomach staging a bloody protest. And where he was working, well, he was in the shopping centres, wasn't he? He was in the retail parks, the places that were bloody riddled with takeaways at every corner. It started small though, right? He'd grab a cheeky burger on his break, maybe some chips if he was feeling greedy, but it spiraled out of control very fast. One day he went to Macca's for a Big Mac meal, then swung over to KFC for a Zinger burger, and he finished off at Taco Bell with enough burritos to feed a bloody rugby team. 3 takeaways in one shift every bloody day. I said one time to him, I said, "Shay, mate, you can't keep eating like that, your insides will pack it in." He just laughed at me. He goes, while he wiped grease off his chin, "But that's the dream. Wine in one hand, chicken wings in the other, what more could a man want?" But here's the bloody kicker, right? So he'd go home to his missus Katie every single night and tell her that his stomach was too sore to eat dinner. Oh, I must have caught a bug, and he'd sprawl out on the bloody sofa like a dying man. Meanwhile, if you went out to his car and you sat in the front seat, you'd smell it and it was like a bloody deep fat fryer. His wine samples were sticky with barbecue sauce that he'd have on his fingertips from these bloody takeaways. But Katie, she didn't suspect a bloody thing. She'd make him these lovely bloody dinners, you know, roasts, stews, the lot. I went over a few times for dinner and it was bloody beautiful. She was a bloody good cook. But he'd just sit there and he'd just, you know, he'd milk the sympathy. While he was stuffed to the gills with junk food, she'd be rubbing his back and bringing him tea, and there he was just lying on the bloody sofa. Oh, my stomach. But it all came crashing down one day when his boss decided to pull up to one of the stores to see what the hell was going on. He was supposed to be making all of these sales and there was no wine even being sold in this bloody store. So he pulled in and there he saw Shay at the Burger King. He had a bloody cheeseburger in one hand and a milkshake in the other. The poor sods in the shop were wondering where the bloody wine guy was, and his boss pulled up right next to him and said, "Are you running a wine business or a food tour?" Needless to say, that was the end of his wine vending career. But Shay being Shay didn't let it bother him too much. In fact, the last thing I heard that he was doing is now apparently running a YouTube channel where he does fast food bloody reviews. He calls himself the drive-thru connoisseur or something. As far as I know, Katie is still with him too. She must have decided he was worth keeping around even if he does smell like fries half the bloody time. But that's Shay for you. A lunatic of a bloke, but you couldn't help but love the guy, even if he loved food more than he loved you.